I think you can hear me well. Greetings from rainy England. I'm Marija Skobe Pilley, a Senior CSM at Intelex, and I'm really happy to talk about EBR today. And thank you very much for inviting me and for just giving me a few minutes of your day. I have a lot to cover. I can talk about this forever, but luckily for you, I will be talking only about 20 minutes or so. So what am I covering? I believe that EBRs are really crucial part of the strategy for customer retention, advocacy, partnership, and expansion. And I just want to share a few tips on just making it a good experience for your customers. And if you're wondering, why am I talking about that? So, as I said, I'm a Senior CSM at Intelex, and in previous years, I have done loads of EBRs with my customers, and it just happens that that is my favorite part of being a CSM. I really just enjoy doing EBRs. And guess what? Sometimes when you enjoy doing something, when you're passionate about it, people invite you to talk about it, and that's exactly what happened now. And a part of EBRs, as you can see, there is still life outside of work and of EBRs. And what else I like in life is really mostly spending time with my family, running, listening to some good podcasts, and just trying to do some sports with my kids. So today I need to tell you a little disclaimer. I'm sharing everything based on my experience in my role, which is high touch engagements with my customers. So I'm a dedicated CSM to the customers. You can think of it as a one-to-one approach. It may not work for you, but you can still give it a go. You don't have to leave this presentation immediately because there could be some good tips. So firstly, these are my thoughts on what EBR is and what it is not. And this is very, very simplistic definition. EBR is an executive collaborative strategic meeting between your customer and your company in which you validate customers' goals, show current value, and explore future vision. And I think it is important just to speak more about all of these different aspects of it. And why collaboration? I think it is the key because it is a joint effort between a CSM, internal teams, and the customer. So CSMs, I believe that EBR is not a one-man show. It's nothing personal, but I think that we shouldn't be presenting at our customers, doing all the talking or just listening to our voice. No, that's not an EBR. Because if we are usually in regular touch with our customers, they don't want to hear only from us on EBRs. This is exactly the opportunity to hear from so many other different departments in your organization. That's why you have to collaborate. And also, I would presume that you would have some account planning with your account executives. So they, at least, if no one else, even they should be part of those EBRs. A part of collaborating internally, it's also just so important to collaborate with your customer on EBR, to include them in the content planning, because you both, or you in both sides, you're showcasing what together are you accomplishing and what together you're doing and how you're building this partnership. And I need to admit, I'm guilty of this myself, very often wanting to do all by myself. Sometimes it seems easier, but recently I started involving my customers in EBR planning, and it is making a difference. Executive business review, of course, as the name suggests, we would expect customers to bring their executives on the meeting, right? But equally, they would expect us to have executive presence as well. If you think about it, when the customers were sold to your product, they were in touch with sales, they were probably in touch with some leadership, maybe even CC or CTO, someone else. And when else do they have opportunity to speak with them? Well, potentially when it's some escalation happening, and you don't want to give them opportunity to speak with executives only in the negative context. So EBRs are great opportunities to bring your own executives on the team as well. I've had my VP of product or CCO joining the meetings, and of course, it's not always feasible, but sometimes you need to make a case for it internally as well. I also think it's very important to be multi-threaded, even in the EBRs. we always think how it's important to have loads of different levels of relationships with your customers, but it's equally important another way around as well. You as a CSM, I mean, as much as very often we maybe want to be that hero, we want to do whatever we can for customers, we want to fix things, there's a risk because an average tenure of a CSM with an account is potentially 12 to 18 months. Teams are expanding, you're transitioning your accounts to someone else. You don't want to be the only person that your customers will know. You want to help them build and strengthen their relationship with your other teams, with support, with services, with trainings, with the product. I'm proud when some of my customers know other team departments by names, and that's a wonderful thing. So you don't want to be that risk of being only one person for your customers. Yes, you are the main contact, but you want to make sure that they know the rest of your organization as well. Just very briefly, strategic, of course, we are not talking about day-to-day operation. We want to make sure that we align our strategic direction of the partnership during EBRs. And for me, the most important part of EBR is my objective, what it is that I want to achieve. And that can be really different for different EBRs because we have different customers who are in different situation, different maturity, they are in different part of their journey. It could be first EBR for someone, which is probably very different than fifth EBRs for some other customer. It could be a new year planning or new stakeholders, change in leadership, whatever it is, EBRs can really be different, but you want to have the objective that will really lead your meeting. So for me, the main objectives are always customer goals. I always want to be familiar with what is my customer business objective and vision at particular moment and how my product fits into that vision. Then the current value, that's really the obvious one, showcasing the ROI, the value, that the impact of the tool for customers' business. And this is the part where you want to involve your customer, you want to collaborate with them, you want them to present some of the successes. And future vision, really, how does our mutual roadmap, and this is not a product roadmap, how does it look like? And what are we doing together to strengthen this partnership and to expand the footprint of our product at the customer organization? And now I just want to talk a bit more about how can you conduct great EBRs. And I know you are very familiar with this. You have to put some effort into preparation to execute well, and then comes the follows up. Very often, that is the hardest part. And you can even have an amazing meeting, very productive meeting, feeling so good about it. But then if there is no actions following it, if there is no follow-up, your customer won't keep on trusting you. And I would just like to go deeper into this. How? So preparation. Some of you may know that I am a musician by my background, and I kind of approach things that I'm doing as a performance, especially EBR. It's like a concert. It's something that requires loads of preparation. And I was always taught, if you want to perform as best as you can, you need to over-prepare. You need to prepare to at least 120% in order to execute 80%. So you're always losing something on your actual performance, but you need to be really over-prepared. And how can you prepare yourself properly for the EBR? Of course, you need to do your research, gather the data, be familiar with everything you can about the customer, how long they have been a customer, what products are they using, who are the main contacts, main champions, what are their main challenges, usage stats, really everything that you can know about that customer. You need to be ready. And then my favorite part is that you have to prepare to be not prepared. Prepare to improvise, prepare that things may go out of the window, you may ditch your agenda, you may need to completely adjust, but be ready for it. And this is also where your collaboration piece with your customer comes into place, because you want to prepare together with them and you're involving them in planning, agreeing who is presenting what, because you want them to present some maybe successes, some projects they've been working on involving your product, some end user feedback. this is really a chance for your main champion to shine. And I'm always thinking at Intelex, for example, there are people on the customer side who are using my product as their full-time job. If I will not be the one to showcase their work and give them praise, well, who else will do it then? We also need to make sure that we can make our customers heroes on those meetings in front of their executives. Another thing which is important for preparation, and I never thought I would be saying that, but have a meeting about this meeting. Recently, as we were planning for a pretty big EBR, big because it involved lots of attendees, we jumped on a call just to align the agenda that was already set in stone. And then the customer brought some new information and new feedback. And basically in a short notice, we needed to change the agenda completely. And it was just good that it happened before the actual event, because on that meeting, there was more than 20 participants. So you just don't want to leave some of those things to be very spontaneous in those situations. So sometimes it is really important to have those meetings about the meeting. And then personalize everything that you're using. So if this is the slide deck, spice it up. Make sure that there are some personalized touches to your customers. So I usually like to do those touches probably the night before, very last moment, but taking some of the photos from customer website, putting it into some parts of the presentation, making some things recognizable for them. So as much as I'm using templates, my customers would really still feel special because of few details. And something that is really interesting that happened at Intelex recently is mock EBR. So our customer success leadership decided that we will all have a mock EBR. And when I heard that we were going to do it, my first reaction was, oh, great, I've got this. I've done it so many times. Of course that it's great, I'll be fine. But I probably didn't prepare for it 100%, but a little bit less. And 1 week before, we needed to send the slides. And of course, as I like to do things in the last moment, I did send those slides a week before, but then I a little bit forgot what I put there. And on the day of mock EBR, as I was going through my presentation, I started seeing some of the things in my slides that I probably wouldn't want to see during the actual EBR. And I think it was such a great learning experience because our managers made it good cop, bad cop role play. So I really had managers challenging loads of things that I was telling them. I needed to push back. They were challenging the type of data I was presenting, everything really to make me ready. And I could tell you it was a little bit kind of painful experience, but an amazing learning, because the feedback that I have received from that EBR mock is something that I could never do in the real time. So if you can do some mock EBRs, I would highly recommend, because at the end of the day, it's really fun, but it's an amazing, amazing learning experience. And how do you actually execute EBR? This is, oops, this slide doesn't like me. Okay, so this is an example of what I would include as the agenda. And this is now happening, so I'll sort it out. Now remember the objectives. Okay, I may skip that, but I'll talk about it. Okay, the main point of the agenda is really to start with discovery. And I can tell you a few stories about it. Now, I apologize that you can't see that slide because I don't know what is happening here, but that's fine. So at the beginning of my EBRs, when we are having introductions, I think it's important to acknowledge everyone in the room. Firstly, even if it is online now, try to make sure that everyone can come on video, at least for a little wave at the beginning. You can set the scene nicely. You can you can make the photo, and you can just really have a nice atmosphere. Don't spend a lot of time on introductions, but acknowledge everyone who is there. And I will I will carry on playing with my slides, but that's fine. And the next most important thing for me in EBR is starting with discovery. So there is the question that I always like to ask my customers, and that is the following: how does the next 6 to 12 months for your organization look like? And this is the time when they can tell me about their business objectives and the goals that they are working towards. And there's a little story. So I was on site with a Nordic customer where it was the first time I have seen them face to face back in the days. And I asked that question at the beginning of EBR, and the executive, in that case, VP of Health and Safety, became really excited about the question. He started talking so passionately about their plans and what they're doing. And he even had handy some presentations. So he showed us the presentation. And throughout the day, he said many times, thank you for asking that question. And he was really saying what are the objectives of the overall department. And based on that question, we have realized that we have a good thought leader, because he was really, really well-spoken, really knowledgeable about the area. And later on, we established such a good relationship that he became a great advocate for us. And he was taking part in a lot of events that we had. He is one of our main speakers. And it all started with that one first discovery question: what it is that you're trying to achieve in the next 6 to 12 months. And why I think that question is so important, because it could be a little bit of a surprise for customers. A vendor is coming to present at them, but actually they are asked to speak, and everyone likes to talk about themselves. But also this is the opportunity for you to really understand where that business is going and where do you fit in. In another example, another Nordics customer, we asked the same question, and somehow they were not very talkative, but then because I looked into their website and realized that across the whole organization, they have a huge sustainability pledge, I asked about it. And then they started talking, saying that it is really a priority number one for their business. And we realized that they could actually achieve that with our product, with a part of it that they haven't used. A few weeks after the deal was done, they bought additional application. They had an upsell. They also became a great advocate of us. And I will try last time to go back to that slide so that you see a little bit of it. In the current value part, this is the time when you will have different parts of your organization presenting. It could be product updates, it could be updates from the services or support, anything that was happening recently, and also from the customer side. So this is part where they where they present some of their accomplishments. And then what is very important, as you're listening to those insights of the customers at the beginning, you are creating objectives towards the end of EBR that is going into next steps. Why I'm saying that's really important, because those objectives is something that you are going to work with your customers after EBR. And this is really this whole approach of a follow-up. And I think it's almost like closing the loop. You're starting with EBRs, you're understanding customers' objectives for the whole business and for their department, and how your product fits into it, and how else you can help them, and what do they need to achieve those goals. And then mutually, you are creating that plan. That is the mutual roadmap. How are we going to get there? How are we going to achieve those objectives? You're putting those strategic goals into tactical action and steps. And that's something we internally call success plan, because then this is what we are monitoring from month to month on all our touch points with the customers. We just monitor the progress to understand where we are against those initial objectives. And this is really important, because on your when you're monitoring this progress, you're just making sure that you're really responding to their needs. You're introducing potentially new parts of your product. You're strategic, you're building good trust because you're working towards mutual goals, and you are expanding your partnership with your customers. Of course, revenue and upsell, protecting revenue and upsell, it just comes as a result of these efforts. And now you kind of heard me well, you are upselling, because this selling is always part of EBRs and your overall relationship, you want it or not, but you're just matching your products to your customers' needs and business goals. And I think that's something to look forward to. To wrap it up, If you forget everything about this presentation, remember two things. It's not about you only as a CSM. Collaborate with others and set yourself at least one objective of what do you want to achieve in an EBR. And even if it is all going differently, if you achieve that one objective, you could say the EBR was successful. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope you will go to work today or tomorrow and book another EBR.
Awesome. Really appreciate it, Marija. I learned a ton there. You obviously prepared 120%. I'm going to give your performance way better than the 80%. So you were like 119, which is good because you offset my 62%. So we're averaging out really good. But really appreciate you taking the time. And there's a ton to learn from EBRs. We will send out the slides, and so everybody will be able to learn from everything you shared there.